To go, and we are on. Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to Truth, Trust, and Trajectory with your girl Shakimbi. Today I have a very exciting guest. I am very happy to have Jen on the podcast today. Jen, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Well, it's really a lot of words of what I do, but I'm going to put it very succinctly. I am a TV show host. I have 3 television shows. I am an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, multiple businesses, different industries. But what I am most passionate about is I create business athletes. So the coaching and consulting side is my baby that I will always do, because I believe when we empower small businesses and we bring those businesses to growth, everybody wins. We're able to serve our clients, our families, our teams' families, and our communities in that way. So that's really what I'm about. I'm about maximizing impact. I do a lot of other things, but that's the crux of where I am today.
I love that. So let me ask you, what kind of got you into being on TV and kind of doing a lot of the things that you're doing now?
Well, I tell you, I didn't want to be on television. I actually don't like cameras. I don't like the sound of my own voice, and I don't really like being on stage. I have always been, I was in sports medicine. I'm a physical therapist by trade. I was in sports medicine for years, and I was always like the coach in the corner behind the scenes with athletes. And I worked with collegiate, pro, Olympic athletes for 20 years. And I
Wow.
love empowering people to be the best that they are going to be and to get them to that next level. But I've always been the coach in someone else's corner. And in business, it has evolved over the last 10 years, I would say, with social media and everything else, to where as entrepreneurs, we have to be the face of the business. And I'll tell you, it goes even a little bit further than that. When you have gone through things and you have a story that needs telling, I believe we have an obligation to share it. And I didn't start successful. I have had real challenges. And my coach encouraged me to share vulnerably my story, to write it in a book, to speak on stages, because other people needed to hear that so that they could learn from that, they could hear it and be empowered to share their own. So that's how I started on stages. And I fought television for a long time. And the way it happened was, I don't know if you guys remember, but in like 2017, digital business cards came out, and they were like very cutting edge. And I love technology. So I went in and recorded one. Well, it was a one take. I had nobody write my copy, nothing. And the TV studio producer runs out to see who it was that just recorded. And he runs and he's like, I love your energy. I like everything about you, your tonality. It would be great for television. Will you become a television host? And I was like, no way, dude. I don't like cameras. I'm afraid of like, at that point in time, I'm like, there's all the fear around that. And he was like, how the heck did you do that? I'm like, because I know what I do. I'm really good at what I do. And I don't need help. I don't need somebody else to write what to put in my mouth. I've lived the experience. So I fought him for a little while. And when COVID happened, I could no longer speak on stages. And so when he asked, it was just the right time for him to ask. So it's a story of persistence on the television show part. He continually asked until COVID locked us down. So I had no other way to impact other people's lives or to share my story. So I said yes. And I was like, this is only going to last until stages come back. No big deal. Well, I learned that I loved it. I didn't love cameras. Every single Friday I'm in studio, and now I have 3 shows, not just one. I have a 35 million audience on one of them. And it's multi-market, multiple countries. But the realization I had is, when your story or your message is more important than any level of discomfort or fear that you have, we are obligated to share it. And so that's the story of television. And I still have to psych myself up to go in every single week. But I interview such amazing people, and we have so many people who reach out. There's some weeks where 17,000 people reach out with how that impacted, or the story, or they implemented in their business on the business show, or in the medical, they didn't know about something about nutrition. So like, it's engaging, and I know I'm reaching people. And that's really important to me, because I truly believe, and this is how I build my life, is the more value that we add, it's going to come back to us in ways that we may not expect it. But if we put that out there, it will come back in a positive way and everybody wins. So that's how that started. And it's still a fear and it's still a growth area for me because I'm always learning and meeting with other people so that I can get better and better and better at interviewing people, for example.
Exactly. I definitely resonate with that. I don't know if you remember or if I even brought this up in our initial when we first spoke, but one of the reasons for me doing this podcast was to be able to practice like interacting with people, also connecting, active listening, and then like expanding upon being more curious, you know, because I think when we live in like kind of like a fight or flight state of mind, you're not really that curious, more or less, more concerned about just survival at that point. You know, so it gets a little bit more difficult to open your mind to like other people and be curious and wonder, hey, you know, what has this person gone through? What makes this person tick? Like, why? You know, I like observing people, but like never felt like comfortable enough like approaching people to have those types of conversations because I've always been afraid of rejection and like people would think that I'm weird. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep all of this coolness over here. I'm just going to watch. But then that makes me look weird, you know? So.
Listen, I'm going to tell you that it's always uncomfortable, but when we get comfortable in the uncomfortable, that's where all of our growth is. And like, it's kind of magic what happens, right? As you show up and you get curious, you get less judgmental about ourselves. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I was an athlete once upon a time in my younger years, and I worked with athletes, and we were our own worst critic. Oh, yeah. No matter what happens, it was all me. It was my fault. What did I do wrong? And we can list, 6 notebooks full of things that I did wrong or wish I would have done better. And we have a different distorted self-view and self-image. But when we continually put ourselves out there in that uncomfortable space and we stick in curiosity and we look at everything as opportunities to learn, like I've had a lot of fails, big fails in my life. Yeah. But I take my losses, my L's, and I look at losses as learnings. And what is the one thing I'm going to take away from this and do better next time? And it serves us. It helps us to be a little less judgmental of ourselves and a little bit more open. And I tell you what, I have learned something from every single person I have interviewed over the years. I have learned something from every person I've life coached or business coached over the years, every PT, every athlete, I learn from my grandbabies. They teach me stuff. And so we approach life with that curiosity, man, we're in ever growth, and it's actually a joyful place to be.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sorry. You took me for a loop because you said grandbabies. I'm like, there's no way that you have grandkids, let alone kids. That's great. Okay. Cool. I love that for you.
Yes, I take care of myself and practice what I preach.
As you should. I love that. So, you had initially said like, just kind of like sharing your story, like initially. Do you feel comfortable? Can we kind of get into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, you can ask me anything. I'm an open book. In fact, I've published most of the stories we talked about in my book.
So like, what was one of the most pivotal times in your life, that you found that you had to use kind of like your own knowledge, whether you knew it or not, or you were just learning it. But as far as like coaching other people, like what was the time that you had to like use that and apply it for your own self?
Oh girl, I've got plenty. I've got plenty. And actually I'm gonna talk about why I became a coach, because I think this is really something that'll hit home for a lot of people. But I was in medicine and I was a strength and conditioning coach at the time. But why did I transition to life and business coaching? In healthcare, there's a shame culture. If you take time off, you're expected to work a lot. And in sports medicine, as a woman in sports medicine at the time, I mean, I entered in the 90s. There were not a lot of women in that field. It was a predominantly male-dominated field. And you were expected to work all these crazy hours. And if you wanted to actually make it happen, you had to like kind of be a man. I mean, I'm putting the asterisk of be a man. Like you had to like suck it up. And so what that meant for me was that I pushed myself to the back burner. And actually I fell off the stove altogether and was like scattered on the floor. I didn't take care of my health. I didn't fuel my relationship with my spouse. I wasn't there for my daughter the way I wish I would have been. And I took care of everybody else. I took care of my teams at work, my coworkers. I took care of the patients and the athletes. And then I came home, and any little dregs that were left went to my family. And so I'll tell you, there were times, and it would be 2 o'clock in the morning. I would literally lock myself in my closet and just cry. Like, everybody in the household is asleep, and it was like really hard. And so my answer was, okay, I'm not happy. I don't have a support network, but I did this to myself. I realized that, and I know I needed to do something. So I booked this vacation with my husband. Like, I'm like, we're going to rekindle our romance. This is going to be great. And it was a private island, and it was like a whole day of travel. And we get there, and that night we're sitting at dinner, like the first night, he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And like, it was a gut punch for me, because here I am. This is my human. He is my human. He's my second husband. My first husband was a whole other reason that I wrote the book that I wrote. But, I didn't expect it at all. I thought, oh, this is great. It's a way to recharge, rekindle, renew. And I had no idea he was feeling that way, but it was because I didn't take care of myself and prioritize myself. I didn't take care of myself, so I couldn't take care of our relationship. And so it was kind of a really rough wake-up call. It's why I left medicine. And I had to get a life coach to help me with setting boundaries and with taking myself off the floor, putting myself back in the pot, and getting back on the stove so that I could do it. And so I had such a profound transformational experience by working through that. And I joined a coaching program, a certification program, to learn more, and worked myself through the program to even further do that. And that literally changed the trajectory of my life. And yes, I left medicine. Yes, I started a business. Yes, I started coaching people. But the reality is I put myself first, and that was foreign for me. It was a skill set. It's a hard habit, and it's something I work at every single day, even now. And so I think that probably was the most pivotal moment when it comes to why am I a coach, and why do I do what I do, and why do I share? Because it teaches you that your biggest disappointment, like my learning was, the biggest disappointment or gut punch or surprise or the most horrible thing that could possibly happen. I could have ended up, losing a relationship I cared about. Newsflash, I'm like, we're together, we're happy, is the best it's ever been. But those losses, those failures, my failure at nurturing that is the biggest blessing, because it showed me that this is what I need to do in order to show up as my best self. Yeah. And when I did that, all of a sudden, like, you have energy to do the things that matter most. It's about prioritization. It's about taking care of you so that you can take care of everybody else, to a place where you're overflowing instead of pouring from an empty cup. And literally in every area, business, life, it's all about how can I be overflowing in this area, and show up in that way. And that's how magic happens. That's how magic happens.
No, I definitely I resonate, and I'm glad you guys are doing better. Like, my heart dropped when you said that. I was like, oh no, because I think it's very easy, right? Especially when you've not seen as a woman another woman prior, putting herself first. You know what I mean? And people used to always say, like, if mama's not good, nobody else is good. And, that kind of just goes over heads, I think, because again, we live in that like fight or flight type of level or of being, state of existence, so much that, we can't even tell when it's starting to affect, things that are very close to us. And it's because we're so close to it, but then we're also not really paying attention, but we are, So I think that's amazing that you were able to see that and then start making the appropriate steps. Now, you said you had hired a life coach. Was that a thing, like, during the time, like when you started going through that? Was it new? And how did you find one?
Yeah, so Uncle Google helped me back in the day. And I didn't even know what to call it. I was just like, help. I like literally Googled help. I don't know what to do. My life is falling apart.
Yes.
And I couldn't talk about it. Like, the thing that is so like I want to impress upon people is we all think we're going through it alone. And the culture of medicine, especially, is we can't talk about burnout. That's a dirty word.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we can't talk about I need help for me. That's a dirty word. Like we can't, it's so shameful to admit that, hey, I'm not superhuman and I can't work 70 hours a week and not take a, a pee
Yeah.
break even.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy that we couldn't talk about it. It's a little bit better. It's gotten a little bit better now. It's still horrendous. But that culture is that we have to just give and give and give until there's nothing to give anymore. And we feel isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who to turn to. So of course I turned to Google because how can I go to the people who I interact with every day? I can't.
Yeah.
And the way I was raised is you just suck it up, buttercup, and keep it rolling. Oh, so many people, like for me, I was raised in a way that so many people have it worse than you. Even if I'm like poor eating ramen noodles, which I did do, I survived on ramen noodles to make sure my child was fed for quite a little period of time. And I was really on the struggle bus for a while, but someone always has it worse than you is kind of how I grew up. And, count your blessings basically, but that has a backhanded side of things where we don't reach out when we're in challenge or we're in struggle and we feel like we can't bring that forward. So yeah, Google was it. And I was like, what is this? And I remember I was watching videos and it like there was this one video and it spoke to my soul in such a way that I was like, I need to do this. And actually it was the certification course that I ended up signing up for and going through, was that first video. And that's how I realized that this was what it is. So I started the certification and I hired a coach pretty much simultaneously on the spot because it was what I needed to hear. It was a vulnerable share, which none of the women in my circles did, or men for that matter. So it was what spoke to my soul at the moment. And I know life coaching is much better known now. But then I had no idea what it was.
No, I just probably like within the last year or so have started like hearing and seeing of life coaches. Definitely one of the reasons the first reason is because I wanted to see like where I was feeling myself, so I'm like, in order to have a better understanding of other people, I have to be able to understand myself first and foremost. Right. So both of the courses that I took definitely, and it's a daily thing, right? So that brings me to my next question with like housekeeping after you finish your however long you're going to be being coached by somebody. What are some of the tools or recommendations that you can offer up to people in order to kind of stay on the same track and not like backpedal to where you're like back on the off of the stove again, as you said?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm not perfect. I'm far from it. And it's a daily work in progress. But some of the things that I actually work with my clients on, because now I work with entrepreneurs and executives like exclusively. I build business athletes. So I've taken everything from sports medicine and sports performance and married it with business and life. And so the things that really work for me and have worked for my clients, we start our day with intention and journaling. And so it's really simple. It sounds super simple, but it's what is my purpose in life? Why do I draw breath? It's not, oh, I get up because I have to, because I'm a mom, which sometimes that's your purpose and that's okay. But for me, it's why do I believe I was put on this earth? Mm-hmm. Like it's a spiritual, emotional, like it's on a deep level. And that's in the front of my journal. And that's the first thing when I open up my journal, I see my purpose. I reconnect with that. I breathe it in. If I'm like cranky, I think about the things I'm grateful for to put myself in the right headspace. But then I look at, okay, so this is my purpose on earth. I truly believe I have a very strong purpose and I want to impact 1 million lives per year. And how am I going to do that? And so what I journal is, what are the 3 actions I'm going to take? One of them in my personal life, one of them in my business/professional life, and the third one can be in either of those areas. The 3 actions I commit to taking today that are going to take me one step further to my greater purpose. And then here's like the thing that really gets me. The only other thing that goes in my morning journal is how am I going to have fun today? Because I truly have learned that if we don't have joy in our day, if we don't have some way to have fun along the journey, we're going to give up, because guess what? Life sucks, guys. Like, we do great. Business is great. Career is great. And then like we get hit by a street bus, but life is only a small part of it, is the experiences that happen to us. It's how we respond and what we take away from those experiences, our learnings, and how we're going to move forward, that matter. And that's like 90% of the equation. And so if I journal in the beginning of the day how I'm going to have fun, then I'm acknowledging that, like the world might, a fire might happen, and I might need to put it out, and I might lose everything I've lost everything I had in Katrina a long time ago. Like, I don't know if you remember the floods, but I mean, like, everything flooded. That was a total loss. So even in those things, the learnings are, I don't need any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I have the knowledge to move forward. So it really is about seeing the blessing in everything that happens to us, mm-hmm. and moving forward. And then at the end of the day, I come back and I go back to my journal. And so it's a 1 page in the morning and 1 in the evening. I look, did I do the 3 things I set out to do? And if the answer is no in any of them, which occasionally it is, because life happens and stuff happens and we get knocked off track, then I only allow myself 1 thing to improve tomorrow. Yes, you heard it. 1 thing. So I don't get to go into this like big spiral on how awful I am, which is how I used to be. It's the great, this didn't happen. What got in my way? And what's the 1 thing I'm going to do tomorrow to make sure it absolutely happens? Yeah. And so by focusing on that, I take the learning. It's like an ingrained behavioral habit of learning. And then how I document how I had fun that day. And sometimes it's a lot, and it's a paragraph of things that I did. And sometimes it's just 1 thing because it was a really freaking tough day, but I went in and made somebody smile, or whatever that looks like. So, and people call that a journal. I call it my battle book. And the reason I do that is because life is a lot of struggles and a lot of challenges, but they're really challenges put in our way so that we can achieve greatness. Every obstacle is there for us to learn something so we can become even better. And I truly believe that. I have full faith in that. And so it's my battle book. And when I'm really having a bad day, or there's a string of bad days, I can go back through previous entries. And I actually have all of those books like over there on my bookshelf. And I can grab ones from, I kid you not, 7 years ago when I started this practice. And to see how far you've come when you're really on the struggle bus is huge. So that's why it's the battle book.
I love that. And that actually, it's inspiring me to be more consistent with my journaling. I think like at the beginning of like all of this, this process this journey that I've been on, I actually prioritized it. So I was making sure I was doing it every night. And then, there was a part of me that just kind of like fell off. And I remember thinking like, at one point it was easy for me to blame other people, right? It'd be like, oh, because, I have a boyfriend now and, I'm paying attention to him, so I can't journal. And it's like, all right, well, now what's the excuse? Because there's no one, it's just me, So I think that's really good. And it speaks to kind of like that self-accountability, right? Like just being present and understanding that, you have to be responsible for the steps that you're taking, for your own embetterment and progress. And then I also like the thing that you said about going into the next day. I think that's really powerful. Like we talked about beating up on yourself, because that's something that I'm learning to unlearn. Just as far as like bringing like failures or things that I perceive as failures from one day into the next, and then end up dwelling on it and sitting in it, and then now I go from okay to now I'm anxious, and then I'm anxious and then depressed, and then it just turns into a spiral day. And I'm like, whoa, like there's definitely bigger fish to fry. So I don't have time to sit here and dwell all day over something that I literally have no control over,
Yeah, I mean, I think life's biggest lesson is letting go. And it's the hardest thing for us is to let go the things that we cannot control. And I mean, the way I was raised, we had a serenity prayer, and it's all about letting go of the things outside of our control, and the courage to do what we can that's within our control. And, it's funny because as a kid, it seems easy. But then you become an adult and you try, like, our biggest challenge, I think, as human beings, and especially as high performers, like if we're high performers and we have a purpose and we're moving in this world and want to do something big and we feel stuck, like we blame ourselves and we try to exert our control over everything. Think about the toddler with the temper tantrum, right? They're just trying to exert some level of control over something because they feel out of control or they don't understand. The same thing happens to us as grown-ups. Like, we don't like change. We're humans. Change and surprises actually stress us out. Like, we're creatures of habit. So when something out of our plan happens, which, newsflash, it's all the time, right?
Every day.
All the time.
Every day.
We have that same inner child. And I'll tell you my secret to how I broke the inner critic. And I still every now and then have to resort to it, but it's a pattern interrupt and it works so well. And you don't have to take my word for it, but the elastic for your hair, like the hair bands, I put one of those elastics around my wrist. And anytime I would catch myself in that spiral, I would literally physically pop myself with that elastic band. Wow. I'm not here encouraging physical anything. But for me, it required that to kind of snap out of it because it was a sensation. It was a physical sensation.
Oh, yeah.
And then like in the old movies, like the 10 Commandments and Ben-Hur days, the old booming God voice, like the really deep, goes in my head. Like what I did, I would pattern interrupt, and then I would hear in that booming voice, "But did you die?" And it would crack me up. Like I literally would giggle. And so I would shift. It immediately shifts your mindset because if you're laughing or you're amused, you can't be beating yourself up. And so it's an immediate. So I use that pattern interrupt and then something that I knew would make me laugh. And then I insert what it is that I want to do and what is the one thing I'm going to improve next time, because the past is now the past. And I literally did that for months. I did it when I got off of stages. I would have a standing ovation on stage telling my story. I'm a domestic violence survivor. And I would have a standing ovation and I would get off stage and I would break down 100 things I should have said different or could have done different. It didn't matter what the delivery was. It was me just beating myself up. It took about 2.5 months of doing that pattern interrupt, and it shifts. And now sometimes I still have to hear that, or, now it's not a pop physically. Maybe it's looking at a funny cat video or babies laughing. But having that shift, so important when we're going through the struggle.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I found myself, actually, it was on Saturday, that moment of spiral, right? Where, I start kind of like intertwining with that sadness, and then it turns into that, and I found in my head, like one of the inner thoughts was, what else can go wrong, right? So I started saying that. I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm like, this, come on. Like, what else can possibly go right? And the moment I said that, inside of I literally felt like a release of all of that heavy tension. It was like it was just breaking down slowly, like each and every time that I said it, to where my body was now very calm, so it wasn't like a nervous reaction anymore. It was just like, okay, everything does happen for a reason, right? And if I compare, maybe my current situation at this particular moment, the only thing that I have to compare it to is about probably 3.5 to 4 years ago, where I actually went through the same exact thing. It was a little different, but it's the same exact thing, right? The only difference is the first time I locked myself in my house, like I would not come out. And I was just so like scared and afraid, like all of the bad things, right? Now I'm still in my house, obviously, but I'm not experiencing that surge of overwhelming emotion that is like debilitating. You know what I mean? Like I'm still able to experience some level of joy, and the level of joy does bring on creativity. So, if you don't have that joy that's sparking that creativity, then 9 times, and some people they work the complete opposite, but I've learned that when I'm in a happy place, that's when I become more inspired, and when I'm more inspired, I'm more aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing in this life. And
I couldn't agree more. And what happens when we are in that anxious place is we see everything as an either or.
Yeah.
And it's this or that, and neither of those options are ever good for some reason. I don't know why it's like that. Have you noticed that neither option is ever good? It's always, oh, well, it's this bad thing or that bad thing. But when we shift to that joy, it opens options and it becomes, yes, there's those two. And here are these other possibilities. And so we
Exactly.
shift our focus, like how we are being and who we are being, and our thought processes shift our focus. And we're looking for that positive confirmation bias because now we're laughing or giggling about something silly. And if these babies can laugh like this, then obviously the world's not coming to an end. So I
Exactly.
kind of just like have my little 3-minute pity party and let's keep it rolling.
Keep it moving. Absolutely. So what are some of the things that you offer to like your coaching clients that you would want the audience to kind of know in case they were looking to connect with you?
Well, I would say that the best thing to do is if, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but even if not, if you're in a career and you're feeling like you're burned out or overwhelmed or whatnot, one of the easiest things is know that you're not alone.
Mm,
Like that's the first thing. And I mean, I have a book on boundaries. It's about, the art of saying no in a way that reclaims your life pretty much. It's a step-by-step journey towards boundaries that stick. And it was written before the pandemic, so it's not up to date from that standpoint, but the premise is the same. And that's understand what's important to you and your priorities, and then focus on that. And if it doesn't fit in your priorities, it's time to start learning how to say no, because really, as women, specifically as women, but some men have the challenge too. We're caregivers, we're nurturers, we love people, we're always taking care of everybody but ourselves. And the greatest gift you can give to yourself is to say yes to you, which means we're saying no to some of the things that are not in alignment. So Steve Jobs said, focus is about saying no. And, I really took that to heart in the business sense. And it's a great starting place. So if you haven't learned how to say no and you're still feeling guilty about saying no or trying to, take care of everybody else and you're on the back burner, pick up the book or find a resource there. I'm on television. If you're an entrepreneur, I interview all kinds of people, and I'm going to tell you a secret. 100% of them have imposter syndrome. I've interviewed literally some of the most amazing human beings on the planet, and they always come to me, I'm not sure I have anything of value to add. I'm like, what?
my
You're doing
God,
these
have
things.
you lived a life?
Like you're my hero. And they like, we all feel that way.
Yeah.
So, take a look at some of the TV shows. I think that's a great free thing to do. And you can see that there's really successful, amazing people who are doing really cool things in the world. And guess what? They have imposter syndrome too.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know. Is it curable? Like, do you know if it
I
ever
think
gonna
it's
be?
part of being human. I think it's a normal thing for us if we haven't done a thing. Obviously, we're not confident in our ability to make something happen that we've never made happen before. And we all
Yeah,
go through it, and it looks different for all of us. Like I'll
yes,
tell you, so many people are like, Jen, you're so confident. And I'm like, you know what? Because who the heck cares if I fail? I know I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to get, like, I am the kind of person who, it doesn't matter if I have to knock my head 99 times, that 100 times is going to be amazing and it's going to take off because
oh yeah,
I'm persistent, right? We all experience it differently, but the most persistent person in any area is the one who achieves their goals, whether it's health, business, life, being on television.
hmm hmm
And you never know. So I think that everybody experiences it. It's part of being human because we haven't done this before or experienced, and we're afraid of the unknown. Like it is a human response to have that stress, fear of the unknown. And it's instinctual. Like if a saber-toothed tiger is chasing us, we're going to freak out and run away because we're afraid of being mauled. And we don't know that, trying this new restaurant might be the same thing, because some people are afraid to try new restaurants or go outside of their, like, fear
Yeah.
looks really interesting in a lot of different ways. Or me being asked to do this project and I've never led this project before. It's fear. It's the same. Our body has the same response. It's just understanding how we respond and then finding a way to move through it. Like imposter syndrome is all about moving through it, and building confidence is something that is very easy to do. it's simple to do, not easy. Sorry, excuse me. It's very simple to do. Confidence is, and getting over that is about building competence, which means we practice the thing and we practice the thing and then we practice it. And pretty soon we get it right. And then once we've got it right, we no longer have fear, right? And so we can confidently say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I can interview so-and-so or whatever. But until we do it, it just takes that little, it's putting in the practice and putting in the reps, I guess. But that's one of the things we love to do with our clients. And so I would check out my shows and my free content first and foremost, because there's so much out there that supports people. But, you know, I believe you're a coach as well. So coaching is something that is an individual choice. And I'm going to tell you, like, I am a high accountability, kick you in the butt. This is what you do, no BS kind of girl. So I worked with athletes for a long time, and not everybody is can take that kind of coaching.
Yeah.
You know, there's something for everyone. And so when you see the content, if you're like, wow, I want that no BS approach, then there's resources that we can have a conversation.
No, I totally love that. Like I've seen everything in the in between, right? And I think I kind of like am somewhere in between, because it really just depends on who I'm talking to and the particular, you know, issue that's, you know, that it is. But there's just certain, you know, certain people that I'll like coach. They're mostly friends that I'm just like, okay, so let's think about this from like a different perspective. And they're like, you know, so but what I do is I plant stuff, right? What I like to do is I like to plant things, because I often hear, and I even heard like Mel Robbins say in her book, Let Them, right? She said, unless someone comes up with that idea themselves, right, they're never going to, like, it's not that they're dismissing or like disrespecting your opinion, right? But it's because it didn't come from them. So it's like the seed planting is like, I'll say something and then later on something will change and I'll be like, but I don't have to claim credit or anything. I'm just like, oh, she heard me, you know?
Well, you know, it's really funny. Like, we're always planting seeds. I think that's part of it. And you're absolutely right. And it's because if we think we came up with that idea, we're more bought into it. Oh, yeah. But once they come up with that, because I believe in that too, I'm like, okay, well, here are all the options. What do you think is best for your business? And so if it comes from them, you're right. 100% of the time, they're more likely. But if they say, I'm going to do, so that's what in business, it looks like, okay, what is the best step for your business? We have, this is the problem. Here are the potential solutions. What are your thoughts? Oh, well, I think I'm going to merge this, and this is what we have to do. Fantastic. What are the first 3 steps to that? And if they come up with it, and then I'm like, do you commit to doing this? And in what time frame? And the minute that it's not done, I'm like, you said you were going to do A, B, and C. It's not done. What happened? And what do we need to do? Because we're a team here, right? And if they didn't reach out to me, because between sessions, like my clients, like I have a different kind of model. Like we meet 1 or 2 times per month, one-on-one, and then we have an accountability call. And the accountability calls with my COO, who's a lot nicer than me. She's the like nurturer, like she interprets me and she helps break it down, and she's got a little bit softer approach. Not that I'm not nice, and I'm so caring. Like I care so much for my client's success. But she's got a different approach. And she's like, so I got it in the way. And what do we need to work you through? And she's amazing. And I love it. But if they didn't utilize that to move them forward and they stayed stuck, which sometimes happens, man, I'm bringing down the hammer. I'm like, you said this. You didn't reach out. You didn't get that extra little touch point. What the heck, people? Do we need to fire you? Because obviously you're not invested in this. And always they're like, no, I'm on it. I need help. And then we're able to coach through it. But I'm that like mirror. Hey, this is what you said.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. So with your, let me put it up actually. And then I guess I'll ask you maybe like 2 more questions. How can the audience reach you? Like, how can they get in contact with you?
You know what? The easiest way to reach me is go to LinkedIn or Facebook and shoot me a message. Like, I'm very responsive. You can attest to that. I think you reached out to me on Facebook. I'm very responsive on social because I'm on television. So I'm always listening to my audience that way. And that's the easiest way. But LinkedIn, just my name, Jen Gaudet. If you search me, it's easy to see. I mean, I think Dr. Phil's on my LinkedIn. when it pops up. I think my Facebook profile has me and Kevin Costner because I just got to interview him.
Oh, that's so exciting. What, spill the tea a little bit if you can.
About?
How did that go? What was it? Kevin Costner?
Oh my goodness.
Talk to him, like really.
Do you know that man is 70 years old?
You know what? I didn't know he was that old, but like he's still a good old.
He does. I promise you, the like so laid back, super like just he's an entrepreneur. He does what he says he's going to do. He's not willing to put it on the line for something he believes in. And I have so much respect for that. But the one thing that gave me the most respect was I asked him, what was the project? What role or what did he pass on that he wishes he hadn't, or that, maybe would have been better. And it was a role that would have landed him an award, and he turned it down because his brother was a his brother was a veteran, and the injuries and the loss because of his brother, he owed it to his brother not to take that role. Wow. And so, his family was more important, and how his family would receive that, and his respect for his family. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. So no role, no opportunity. And he knew it was going to be an award-winning role. But he passed on it because of his values. And to me, that's integrity. And I'll be frank, I was never a huge fan before, because he used to be quite the playboy and have quite the reputation back in the day. And I'm old, so I remember that day. But to hear that and the maturity in that and the values come through time and time again, that was really powerful. Wow. That was really powerful.
No, that's I think integrity is something that it's here, but it's not. If you know what I mean. Recently, my 9-to-5 that I was telling you about, I told you I didn't really necessarily feel like I should be there, just because I'm not gonna say I'm an all-around humanitarian, but I kind of am. And so the thought of I don't know, doing anything that's disruptive or nature to are destructive or harmful to the ecosystem, kind of, it doesn't sit right with it. It doesn't make me feel a good person, but it was oh, the job pays my bills. That's not very integral, so it's crazy how things work, because the universe has a way, I think, of lining things up, so whatever you think and whatever you feel, it'll make sure it rectifies and balances the scales. So we'll just leave it at that. But that integral part, that means a lot. Because I'm man, I never used to be like that until I had to start paying massive amounts in rent. And now I'm just all right, cool. But now I'm nah, maybe not.
Well, we all go through phases in life, and we have to do what we have to do to pay the rent. And I'll tell you, I've had jobs that people put a lot of shame on in order to feed my family and put myself through medical school. You take what you can get and you do what you need to do for whatever's your top priority. And if survival is your top priority and you're a single mom and you need to feed that baby, then you need to feed that baby. Yeah. And that's your number one top priority. And so you're in integrity with yourself if you're providing that survival. But then, as we mature into that, and we're still kind of in survival if we're paycheck to paycheck, but it's a different kind of survival than how am I going to get food on the table? Yeah. Then it becomes a more where our options open, and so our priorities shift. So, I've done some things that when I look back, I'm I don't talk about this because if I did, people would look at me completely differently. But, but it was a need, when you're a DV survivor and you need to put food on the table, you need to put food on the table. So, sometimes you make choices. Mm-hmm. And my choices are always my family first, because that's I brought this child into the world. They didn't ask to be brought into the world. And it is my responsibility as a parent to see that they are set up to become an independent human and that they survive to become an independent human at age 18. That is my number one responsibility if I'm a mom. And now I'm
Exactly.
a grandmother, so I don't have that. So I get to do all the fun stuff and I don't have that same dynamic anymore. But I'm at legacy. And if it's not like you, my integrity is all I've got. You can beat me into the ground if you want, but you can't take away my knowledge and my integrity. Those are the
Exactly.
two things that always go with me. So I'm always learning, I'm
Mhm.
always growing because
Mhm.
that will come with me. And I could start over from scratch and be, put out on the street and I know how to make money. I know how
Mhm.
to serve people. I know how to add value. And I
Mhm.
have a tremendous amount of people who I've added value to that I know that I can survive. I will be able to survive and thrive again because
Yes.
of that knowledge. And then I have the integrity as well. I know what I believe in, and my integrity is going to be there with me through
Yeah.
it all. So
Yeah, that when you just said that, I was watching something earlier today, and a lady had said something about when you're honest in life, your walk will always be guided. So when you said that, it reminded me of that because it's very true, right? I feel like when you are you have to be honest in order to be integral, right? Honest with yourself, honest with other people. And then things just start aligning. They work out, and they work out sometimes not in ways that you think that they will or how you hoped that they will, but they do work out to benefit you and align you with where you're supposed to be.
we are always provided for as long
Mhm.
as we're doing that. And I like to call it the sniff test. Smells like bull, not going there.
Yeah.
Does it pass the sniff test? Does it pass the gut test? If the answers are yes, we will proceed.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. All right, so Jen, let me ask you, what has been the biggest reward for you so far in your your journey? So not your career, but just from where you came from mentally to now.
I will tell you, this is the easiest question you've asked me. It's
Nice.
my daughter.
Okay.
She's 28 years old. She is the most amazing mother. I am so proud of her. I thought, mom guilt is a thing.
Yeah.
I thought, oh gosh, I'm not there enough. I had all that, but she has turned into such an amazing, and she is the kindest, most loving human being. She cares so deeply about people. I believe I raised her right. She is a very non-judgmental human, and it's coming through in her children. And she's an entrepreneur. So she has a business, and I watched her grow it as doing the hair and makeup to having teams. And so she glows up brides for their big day.
Oh my
And she
goodness.
has teams that do that. And for me, like my crowning achievement is I produced that human. And not only did she survive, she's an amazing human being. And she does like she has such a big heart. And yeah, that's it. And then the secondary is, gosh, my grandbabies.
Yeah.
Because if I hadn't done a decent enough job as a mother, I was afraid she would repeat patterns. I was afraid that she would have, and she did not by any stretch have an easy way, because some of the patterns did repeat. But I had been enough on my journey and healing that I was a resource.
Yeah.
And I shared. Here's the other thing: like, I'm really proud of my ability to vulnerably share how I felt. Like, I had a lot of guilt over the domestic abuse and the spouse that I had, but I wouldn't have my daughter without her. But he was emotionally abusive to her. So I had a lot of guilt about that and shame. And like, I was able to vulnerably share that and help her through her healing process to become. And I think that was the hardest thing I've ever done of anything, and the most rewarding, because it's helped her. And hopefully we'll break that generational sort of trauma, if you will, and it won't repeat in our grandchildren. Of course, they make their own choices, but crowning achievements, it's the funny things in life that you look back, like, I've failed so many times. Like, I don't think about that or perseverate on that anymore, because
Mhm.
if you're not going big, you don't win big either.
Exactly.
And so, like, what is it? It's that's it. And the other is, I have an amazing marriage. Like, I think we have the best relationship we've ever had. And we both feel that way. So like it all comes down to all of the work and all of the trials and tribulations and all of the learnings have resulted in improved communication, better, like just being vulnerable and being able to share, which is not something that I was able to do in 2017, which is only 7 years ago, like, well, 8 now technically. But you know, I didn't know how, and now I do. And, it's really been very, very good personally, and professionally as well.
Wow. And that's good. So that's beautiful that, you know, there were so many takeaways from that it's really hard. Not that the mind always seems to want to look at like, you know, hardships to kind of like remind you of that. But the fact that you're able to kind of be like, okay, like I'll just glance, but not really look, right? Because it's not that, you know, looking isn't important, but it's like you don't have to travel back to that same road, right? As a reminder or to be grateful or have that gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to remember, you know, in detail, like all of that stuff. Which is great. In retrospect, it helps, it's helping you to help other people as well. So I think that's beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience tonight, Jen?
I think if there was a takeaway lesson, it's that no matter what you're facing, whatever challenge, whatever fail, whatever, you know, obstacle, no matter what learnings life is putting in our way, they're there as a blessing for us. Sometimes doors close so that others can open, so that we can step into who we really are meant. And there's always hope. So when you're in that space, shift yourself and find the option that is the door you want to go through, and have fun along the way.
I love that. And where can everybody find your book?
Oh, yep. So they can go to my website. It's on my website. It's jengodecoaching.com, or you can go to Amazon. It's on Amazon as well. And the book is Over My Dead Body, The Art of Saying No, a step-by-step journey towards boundaries that stick.
Oh, I love that so much. Wait, so you're on Amazon, you're on Audible too, right?
I did not do Audible. Girl, they have asked me. But
well, when it's up there, you have to let me know, because I literally I live in Audible. Like I have so many books that I've been knocking them back on there because it's easier while I'm going. I'm driving and I'm listening and I'm getting amped and inspired. I'm like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, I'm strongly considering it this year, along because I've been also asked to update it. So I'm probably going to update it so that it has some relevant post-COVID era, like how to set boundaries in a hybrid workspace in my household, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's probably coming to a theater near you.
Yes, thank you, Jen. All right. Well, I thank you so very much for making time to be here today. I want to thank all the viewers and the audience for tuning in, tapping into this episode. Please make sure you guys leave a comment. Let Jen know what your biggest takeaway was. What was your favorite tool that she mentioned as far as regulating and good housekeeping for your, not only yourself, but for your professional and family life. Also, guys, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. And until next time, okay, bye.